every time we hear a heartbeat for the first time, prenatally, it's like you made a heart. You made an entire heart. Just listen to that. Let that fill your ears and fill your soul in a way that knowing you made a heart. You made a whole person. You didn't need to think about it. It just happened. It just happened. And it's going to come out of your body. And you're going to live to tell the tale. It's flippin' amazing.
Yeah.
If you're not amazed at birth, you're not paying attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Miranda was overdue, which really isn't overdue because birth is just, your due date is just a, estimate. It's 38 to 42 weeks, but she was already 41 weeks, and it gets really uncomfortable and exhausting, and she had a really good attitude and was hanging in there day by day.
It seemed like I was 55 weeks pregnant at the time, and I was struggling big time and having a really hard time with the waiting and the anxiety building up to him coming. And that Saturday was, it's our date night, and Knox sleeps at Julian's mom's house mostly so that we can sleep in the morning, because Knox wakes up super early and usually wakes up at least once in the middle of the night. So once a week to get a full night's sleep and sleep in till, 7:30, 8, is kind of like our date night ritual, or it has been in the last few months. And I didn't think that we would be having a date night that week or the week before. I thought for sure we would have a 2-week-old baby at this point. So kind of like bittersweet that we had another date night, but also like the realization that another week had gone by.
The good signs is that we had already known that her mucus plug had came out. So obviously those are all great signs that things are progressing. So that gave us hope. Now it's just a matter of okay, well, what's going on now? Because, going the home birth route, we were praying and hoping that we didn't go past 42 weeks, because at that point, they transfer care over to a hospital, and that's what we were trying to avoid.
One of our employees / one of my good friends, who I had not seen for 6 weeks because of the stay-at-home orders, came over. I think that she felt so bad for me, that I had been just struggling and alone and couldn't go anywhere or do anything, that she was like, I'm gonna come see you. We can work out, or we can read tabloid magazines, or whatever you wanna do. I'll bring you a coffee and I'm gonna come see you. So she came and we did a workout, and she did bring me a coffee and some tabloid magazines. And so that was super meaningful to have a visitor, somebody who I hadn't seen for so long, reach out and just make sure that I was doing okay. And then that night, on our date night, we ordered pizza, which is like our Saturday night thing.
We would just watch a movie and relax and kind of just, spend time with each other. And we're having pizza, and all of a sudden I remember we were sitting down getting ready to eat, and she just did this jerky movement. She's like, oh my gosh, Banner just did a wild movement.
I was so used to Banner moving so much that I felt like a really weird, almost like pop movement. But I was sitting down, and but I must have made a weird face or something, because Julian was like, what was that? And I was like, oh man, just Banner going wild again, But it was like a different weird feeling. Anyway, to try to keep it not super graphic, I felt like a lot of people will say that when their water breaks, they felt like they peed their pants. Well, I feel like I know if I'm peeing or I'm not peeing. I just felt a little bit of wetness come. I did not feel like I was actively peeing or anything like that. But I was like, what? That's weird. And but I had a little bit of that going on for a while, because I had the prodromal labor for almost a week at that point, or maybe it had been a full week, where I had been having contractions and some sort of that kind of thing happening. So I was like, oh, here we go, just another night of random prodromal labor.
That was really strange. And then a couple minutes after, she's like, oh my gosh, I think my water broke. And then we're like, okay, well, she stood up, and sure enough, it did.
And then that's the point where you're like, I don't want to believe that this is happening just to be let down again, because we had that happen several times before, not with the water breaking, but just with contractions. And so I was like, I don't know. And Julian was like, I'm gonna call them anyway and tell them. And then I like moved a little bit or shifted and more came out. And that's when you're like, oh shit, like I think this is really happening this time. Actually, my fear or my reaction was not so much this is happening. It was like, oh no, if this is my water breaking and I don't go into labor, they're gonna make me go to the hospital and induce me, because that is something that happened to my good friend Molly. Like, her water broke, but she wasn't in labor. And you only have like a certain window where I know with the midwives, they'll push it to like 2 days. But if you have an OB, they're like, okay, if you don't go into labor within like 12 hours or something, we're gonna induce you. So my first thought was, I need to go into labor like right now, or I'm gonna end up in the hospital with an induction. And so we called the midwives, and they had like this little Q-tip thing in the box of supplies that we had ordered. And they told us to go find the Q-tip thing, and if you dip it in some of the liquid, it'll turn black if it's actually amniotic fluid. That's how we'll know for sure if it's your water. So we brought the box down, dug through it while we were on the phone with them, found it and tested it. Like, so gross. Julian's like Q-tipping the floor. And the dogs are like sniffing it, and it's just, yeah, anyways. But yeah, it turned the color it was supposed to turn, and so they said, okay, well, are you having contractions? And my answer was, well, like, yeah, I've been having contractions for like 5 days. I don't know how to answer that. And I think they could tell I was a little bit panicky, because they kept asking her, like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm just like, you know, anxious. And they were like, well, time them and see. And Julian was like, okay, well, we'll time them, but, and I think they could tell that both of us were a little anxious. So they said, you know what, we're just gonna come over.
I better go get in the shower. I think I'm gonna head on over there, like, just in case. And so I got in the shower, and she called, and she said, oh yeah, they're happening about every 5 minutes. And so I called the team, started heading over there.
When I first arrived, there was this song playing on a playlist. You know, I walk in and there's just music through the whole home. And it was this Trevor Hall song that I'm familiar with. And I was like, oh wow, great playlist. And it just got better from there.
So no matter what room you went in, you could hear it, and it set such a great atmosphere throughout the whole house, and for everyone it permeated the whole, you know, event and experience.
She was in the tub, her doula was there, Julian was there.
Immediately my contractions started becoming more regular and stronger. And from that point on, my concept of time is gone. Like, from the moment I got in the bathtub to pretty much the next day, I was in like a full time warp. So that was at like 7:30 at night. When that happened, and then then it was off to La La Land for me, I guess.
You know, you just feel for her so much when, like, she's getting hit hard with those like contractions that are getting her closer to pushing, because it's just like every literally minute or 90 seconds, and they stop her in her tracks, and you know, she's hunching over, she's in pain, you know, she's uncomfortable. It's taxing, like, it's just, you know, you're just getting hit with it hard.
And no matter how hard you work out and eat and all of that, birth is still really hard. And it's for everybody, and hers was no different.
It was, people have made the comments like, oh, your labor was half the time, because when I was in labor with Knox, it was 14 hours. This labor was roughly 7. Actually, it was almost exactly 7. I'm glad your labor was easier. I don't know if easier is the way that I would describe it. It was shorter, but that's like saying that a all-out mile is easier than an all-out 5K. Like, I don't know which one is necessarily easier just because one of them's shorter. I definitely know that I dealt with this one better, and I think a lot of it comes with just knowing what to expect. But It was rough. So they wouldn't let me stay in the bath for longer than 40 minutes, which is probably good because it was hot in there and they wanted me moving around. I think Naomi picked up on the fact that I was pretty coachable and that I would listen to her, because a lot of times she'd be like, listen, this is what I want you to do. It's not going to be fun, but it will help. And I would always say, okay, I'll try. You know, so the very first time I got out of the bath, I think I wanted to lay down. And I laid down for, it could have been 10 minutes, it could have been 2 hours, I don't know. I didn't lay down at all in my birth with Knox, but I had been reading the Bradley Method books and learning how to like relax through the contractions. One of the things that they said in there was you have to completely relax your body, otherwise it's in the way of what your uterus and the muscles are trying to do. So the laying down is what they suggest, and I wanted to try it, and I did like it. Before the contractions got super strong, I thought it was a great position. And so we laid there, and then they asked me to get up and they wanted me to go up and down the stairs. And they told me it would make my contractions stronger, which it definitely did, but they also said it would help to get him in a better position. So they had me like go down the stairs sideways and then like walk around the kitchen. And I think I had like 3 or 4 contractions just in between like those 2 things, and then walk back up. They wanted me to do it several times, which I did not. I think I only made it down once in that first window, and then they tried me, maybe twice. They tried to get me to do it again later, which I'll tell the story about, but it probably did help him get in better position. It was super painful and gnarly.
But she handled it so well and was really focused, and it was great to watch her and Julian work together, where both her and Julian and I could work together so well and to support her. And when things were getting really intense for her, he really could I could do physical measures for her, and then he could just look in her eyes or whisper in her ear and get her focused. And so it was great to watch that teamwork.
I noticed a change at midnight. You can tell when people are getting more down deeper into that like primal brain and really being in their body. They talk less. They are less involved with its outside world.
I'm glad that I had Gina there. She was so helpful in like, she would like move my hips or squeeze my hips together or rub my back in a way that obviously it still hurt really bad, but it was helpful. It helped a lot. And then leaning on Julian, of course, helped a lot. I was like randomly carrying around Banner's little like blankie, I think just to like have him with me or something. I don't know, it was comforting to me.
It just started to get more intense. You know, she was needing a little more physical support from Julian and Gina. We went and walked downstairs up those great stairs. I just knew those were going to help get, baby in a little better position.
I know I was up and down the stairs once, maybe twice. I was on the toilet at least twice, and that's where I spent a good time in my birth with Knox. And same thing, they said it's going to hurt, but the pressure down will really help. So I sat in there, and Julian sat in there with me. Our bathroom, where the toilet is anyway, is very small, so he's the only person that could fit in there, which was nice. It felt like we were kind of like alone, and they would just kind of peek their heads in every once in a while and check on us. And they would come and listen to the baby's heart and then just leave us alone. So the bathroom felt very like intimate, for lack of a better word, and private, which is super important from what I understand to progressing labor, is to feel like no one's watching you. And then I was in the bathtub again, and then as it was pretty bad, and they were like, we're gonna need you to get out of the bathtub again. You've been in here for like an hour. Do you think you could walk up and down the stairs again? And in my mind, I was like, no, I do not. I do not think I can walk up and down, but being the athlete, coachable person, I was like, sure, I'll try.
Miranda was very determined, very motivated, and just focused. She was ready to have her baby, and she was going to do whatever it took to get there. She wasn't backing down, and I loved it because whatever we would recommend or advise to help her labor continue to progress. She was just right there with it and ready to do it, which was just such a great positive attitude.
And I got as far as my bedroom by my bed, and I not fell, but like had to go to the floor. Like during one of the contractions, I was like, nope, I'm going down. Like I can't even stand up right now. Ended up on all fours for a little while, like staring at Julian during the contractions and just kind of like going back into child's pose or who knows what in between. And then they got so bad that I ended up laying down on the floor, like against the wall in the worst possible place for people to be able to help me. And that space right there when I was down on the floor was for sure the most pain that I was in at any point. But in my mind, I started thinking, I can't do this anymore. Like, this is too much, this is too much. And I'm so glad that I had read the books that I had been reading, because in every labor, they say there are 2 emotional signposts. And one is usually when you go into labor, in between contractions, the person's still joking around or talking or like trying to like get things ready. Once that goes away, that's the first like emotional signpost of like, okay, this is really labor and this is where you're now in like active labor, when you stop talking to people in between. The second one that every pregnant woman will go through in labor, well, I shouldn't say everyone, because sometimes people just have a baby and they didn't even know they were pregnant, but is the self-doubt. And I had it with Knox where I said, I can't do this anymore, and Julian had to like pep talk me. And this, when I was on the floor in there, is when I started thinking it. I never said it out loud during this labor, but I definitely thought like, I can't do this anymore. But I knew from reading that stuff that when you start thinking that way is when you're about to transition over into where you're going to be able to push. But there's a moment that every woman will have where that's like the make or break, you know? And so as soon as I started thinking that way, it actually helped me to think, okay, you're going to be able to start pushing soon because you're starting to think this way. So it was really cool, and I'm glad that I knew that this time. But yeah, and then so when I was on the floor sideways, like randomly flailing around, my body started pushing, which I remember happening with Knox too.
I thought, well, here we go. We're gonna have this baby on the side of the bed. So much for that, water birth. So my team was right there, and they grabbed, all the birth stuff and the resuscitation stuff, and just had it close by.
You can't really push before your body starts doing it for you. It's not gonna do anything besides exhaust you. So I told them, and they were like, well, you can just have the baby right here, but I really didn't want to. I don't know why. It would have been fine, but I wanted to be in the bath, and they were like, okay, it's gonna be really hard for you to get over there right now. Like, if you're gonna do it, you gotta kind of book it over there between contractions.
And she was moving them with every contraction, and I thought, you know what, I think we got time to get over to that tub, so let's hurry up.
It just clicked. I was like, yes, let's go in the bathtub. And so we went in and we made it. And I mean, that's my memory and summarization of 6 hours of time. It's all very fuzzy, but yeah, I'll never forget that little spot on the floor. It's definitely, that was bad.
Birth requires this primal brain, right? You come out of this thinking space and you become this primal person. And it's a space where words aren't used and thoughts are not clear in a logical way. And it was really beautiful to see Julian meeting her in that space in a way that didn't require words.
She found so much strength with Julian in Knox's birth, and I knew that his voice was the only voice that she was really going to be hearing in these, really intense pushing contractions. And they do hard stuff together all the time. They are each other's strength, not just like in their business, and in fitness, but in all of the ways somebody is your rock. So I wanted her to hear his voice and to look to him for for support.
Like, that's exhausting for them. You don't know how much they're able to take, but she's strong. I believed in her at all times, but that was hard for me to watch. Like, 'cause you wish you could take some of that pain away from them and help them during that, but you realize that the help you give them is just by being there and just looking at them, showing that everything's okay.
Julian was right next to her, just so focused on her, and she would rest back and then she would come into a contraction, and it was like they would just come together, and it just went this way. Like, there was a connection there that's just so beautiful.
Like, she was just really looking at me for hope and that extra strength, and like, I'm telling you, they were super intense, but that's great that she needed me for that strength. Like, that was really, I remember that. Those looks I'll always remember, for sure.
But I used Knox a lot. And like during almost every contraction, once they started getting really bad, I just had this picture of Knox in my mind playing in our trees in the backyard. And just remembering like how much I love that. It's so special to me, and he's just laughing and like hiding in the trees and then popping his head out to see if I can find him. And just, I don't know, I was just focused on how being a mom is so special, and that's like a moment that stood out to me, and I just, during every contraction, would picture Knox running around in the trees. Knowing that I would have another child to have that relationship with. So that's something that obviously I've told a couple people about since, but I wanted to make sure and remember that and not forget that as I got into this like tired stage that I'm about to be in, you know. And Julian asked, actually, I don't even know if he asked. I think I told him, go, you need to tell Aki, the photographer, to call your mom. You know, I knew that it was like 2 something in the morning or close to that. But it was really important to me that Knox be here the moment that Banner was born. And so I didn't care, like, I don't care if he's, you know, gonna have messed up sleep for the next few days. Like, this is a once in a lifetime, you were there for your brother's birth type thing.
And it was like, oh, Knox is here.
He was in there in the last 30 minutes of her pushing, and he just watched. That was really special for us, because every time she would, in between contractions, you would look over and tell Knox, hey, Banner's almost here, you're about to meet Banner. That was special for us, for sure.
I think that it changed a bit because he was in the room and she maybe didn't want to scare him. So maybe she wasn't as vocal, you know, during those few moments that he was there.
It didn't make the pain of like the pushing or the contractions less, but you could see, and I don't know if this was filmed or not because I have no recollection of what was filmed, but in between those pushes, I would completely turn to him and tell him what was going on.
Okay, Mono.
Mama's okay. Mama's having Banner.
Banner coming out in the morning, Mono.
Banner coming.
You gonna see Banner soon?
Banner coming, Mama. Mama and Papa here with Banner.
Mono. Mom, Banner coming out of Mama tummy, okay?
Banner coming, Mono.
Say good job, Banner. Say good job, buddy. I love you. Lucy, can you take his clothes off? Can you take his clothes?
And it just gave me something to focus on in between, and a motivation, big time, to actually keep my shit together, because I didn't want to scare him, and I didn't want, you know, I wanted, obviously, like, I was still making noise and it was still, you know, pretty loud and stuff, but it was, it helped me keep calm as much as possible.
Once he was out of the room, then Miranda was like, all right, I'm doing this.
When there's a couple, when they could finally see his head, that's when you feel like, okay, this isn't going to be that much longer. and you're so close. And so like, no matter how much pain you're in or anything, like you're so motivated to just A, meet your son, and B, get this thing over with, right? And then we got, I remember Naomi saying like, I'm gonna tell you to push, but I'm gonna tell you to stop, because they were trying to prevent me from tearing, which like in your mind at that time, you're like, I don't care if I tear or whatever, like I just want this to be over. I want him to be safe. I want him to be out. I tried to listen to her as best as possible, but that hurts so much. And then his head came out completely, and then I stopped having contractions for like maybe, I think 2 minutes or maybe longer.
That moment for me was very intense, because I remember one of my biggest fears was when Knox was born, he didn't breathe for 3 minutes, which was like, you were holding your breath until he took a breath, because you don't know what's going on. But I remember when Banner was coming out and I saw his head push through, and then the midwife was there, and I kind of watched my surroundings just to make sure that everybody's staying calm. That's what allows me to stay calm the whole time, because you know you have your professionals with you. But then they were on a timer once his head was out, and I remember the second midwife telling Naomi, which is the main one, hey, 90 seconds, and the head is still there, and Miranda's not getting contractions, to push him out again. She's like, I have nothing. Yeah, your anxiety starts kicking in, but you have to stay strong. You have to be the strength needed in that environment, because if you're not, then you got to get out. Like, you can't bring a weird vibe, because it's not about you. You have to either hold the strength needed for what's going on, or you just walk out.
His head was just in the water. And I wasn't worried about it at all, because I know that as long as he's still attached to the umbilical cord and he hasn't come up into the area yet, that he can, I mean, it's no different than what he was just in my belly. But I could tell Julian was worried about it. And then they kept asking, like, can you push? And I mean, you can, but it doesn't really do anything, because it's not, your body's not helping you push. So it's about as much power as if you were trying to like go pee. You know, it's not going to do anything to this massive baby. But I do remember, like, am I going to have another contraction? Like, I asked Naomi if she could pull him out, which was a dumb question, and she said no. And then finally it came, but in between, during that 2 minutes, of course, Banner, being the baby that he is and what he had been doing the whole time in my belly, he was kicking me. Like, his whole body was going crazy. He was trying to kick himself out. I was trying to push him out. We both needed, you know, my body to help with the process. But I just remember looking up at them. I think I was like smiling, like laughing, saying, he's still kicking me. Like, he's kicking me on the way out. Like, it was so crazy. And then I felt that contraction coming, and I knew, like, this is gonna be the one, and he's gonna be out. And it was, and he came out, and you know, there's like that huge sense of obviously physical relief, because it's uncomfortable when it's like halfway out. And then just that like emotional, but there's like a window of the physical release is there, but your emotions are still so anxious until they pull him up and he cries and everything.
But it was special. Once he came out, she grabbed him and he took a breath right away, so that was great.
And he cried immediately.
All right, don't rush. Okay, here we go.
Mono, come here.
Banner cried immediately, and they turned him to me, and all I saw was Julian's nose on this baby's face. Like, I will never forget that. I was like, oh my gosh, that was Julian's nose. And it was just like briefly as they like put him on my chest, I was like, yep, I thought he was gonna look like Julian, and he does. And he cried, and then I looked over at Julian, and he was just like tearing up, and just like you could tell his like anxiety that he hides so well was let go and released, and he was so relieved.
This baby was just adored. He was so adored.
Very ready for him and very welcoming for him.
Yeah.
right from the beginning. There was not that a lot of times there's a moment of like, oh my gosh, I just had this baby. Well, now what? And Miranda did not have that.
She's like, shoot, kids here,
Yeah,
okay,
no.
we're gonna be nurse, we're gonna, you know, yeah, she Miranda'd it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when he was out, and Knox at first didn't come to him because obviously there's so many people, but once things mellowed out, we were there for like 15 minutes, he had gone out and came back in, and then brought Spider-Man over to him and said, happy birthday, Banner. Hi, Banner, happy birthday. That was a very emotional moment as a father for your firstborn to meet your second, and that little relationship.
Spider-Man. Say, hey, Banner, look at Spider-Man.
Show Banner.
Show him. Hey, Banner, look at Spider-Man.
Show him. Say Spider-Man and Banner came on the same day.
Show him Spider-Man, Mono.
Spider-Man. Say, look, Banner.
Look, Banner, it's Spider-Man. Mono, show him. Show him. Say, hey, Banner, look, Spider-Man. Mono, that's your brother.
Say, hey, buddy.
Say, hey, Banner.
Hi, Banner.
Say, happy birthday, Banner.
Happy birthday, Banner.
Mono, say, I'm gonna make you the fun.
Thank you for the food.
You gotta make him a bun.
He said, I love you, Mono.
I love you.
It's something that they don't show in the movies is that after the baby comes out, you are not done. Your placenta is still in there and you have to deliver your placenta, which is not as painful. It's squishy, there's no bones in the placenta, but you still have contractions and you still have to push it out. And that's something that I don't think almost anyone knows before they're pregnant with their own child. And so I remember it with Knox. I remember it being painful and uncomfortable. I remember I was laying on the bed and I think holding him when I finally pushed it out. This time it was different. So they left the cord attached until it stopped like really throbbing to get all of the blood possible from the placenta into Banner's body, which is great because if you cut the cord too soon, you lose a lot of that blood. And then the baby doesn't have as much blood in their system. So it was a while, like they kept feeling it and they were like, okay, it's still going, like we're gonna leave it. Finally, they cut the cord and then Julian took Banner, or they took Banner and gave him to Julian on the bed. And they said, you need to deliver your placenta now, can you push? And I wasn't really having like strong contractions that I felt like I could push. I had some and I was trying to like push, but I didn't feel like anything was happening. So they said the words that every woman who just delivered a baby wants to hear. Can you get into a squat? And I was like, what? Really? And they were like, yeah, let's see if that pressure will help. And so I got into a squat just right after all of that and still nothing. And they were like, okay, let's try putting you in the shower. Maybe I guess like if the water hits your nipples, it might like stimulate more contractions. Nothing happened in the shower. And so the words that I will never forget in my life, that it was just like, this can't be real life right now, was they were like, we're gonna give you some Pitocin, which is what they use to induce labor in the hospital. And I know it creates really strong contractions. We're gonna give you some Pitocin to try to get your placenta out. And it's like, you'd just been through 7 hours of like this disastrous pain. All you want to do in life is hold your baby and lay with him in bed and feed him for the first time. And instead, they're talking about giving me Pitocin to bring those contractions back. And I was like, do you have to? And they're like, we got to get this thing out. So they gave me a shot in my arm. Then I guess it still wasn't good enough. They finally let me lay down, which I was happy about. And I was laying next to Julian and Banner. And they gave me another shot of Pitocin in my leg. Naomi says, okay, so Lynette has the smallest hands. That was the first thing I heard. And then it was like, she can put her entire hand in there and try to see if she can, you can't detach it yourself. Like that's super dangerous. That's like ripping a scab off and you're just gonna bleed everywhere. It has to detach on its own. But they said she can try to scoop it and see if it's loosened enough that she can scoop it. If we can't get it out, I think it had been an hour since he was born at this point. If we can't get it out, we have to transfer you to the hospital. And it's like, are you kidding me? after all of this that I've been through in the last months trying to avoid the hospital and the birth center and the coronavirus, and he's out of my body. Now I might end up in the hospital just because my placenta won't come out. And I remember just staring at Lynette's face, and they were like, what do you want us to do? And I couldn't answer them, because my fear was she's gonna go in there, it's gonna hurt so bad, and she's gonna come out and tell me that she couldn't get it, and then they're gonna make me go to the hospital. So in my mind, I was like, if I just avoid answering their question, maybe this Pitocin will kick in and it will come out. And that is exactly what happened. I never answered the question about what I wanted them to do. I just kept looking at Julian saying, I'm so scared, I don't want to go to the hospital, and just really stalled. And it worked, because I felt like a little thud, like a little thump of it detaching, and then I was able to push it out, and thank goodness, because that was the most scared I was the whole night. I wasn't scared, I was just in pain, but I was terrified right then that I was gonna have to go to the hospital.
It just came out at the very end there, and that was good, because you could tell they were getting a little uneasy about it. What felt like it, at least. I don't know, I didn't talk to them about that, but. And then after that, we had our moment of like that bonding time, it was like that moment of we did it. And I was so proud of her, because she did amazing. Like, she crushed it. Like, her recovery has been so much better this time around. And it felt great having it at home. It felt so right.
Finally, and it had been like an hour and a half since he was born, where I could finally just be with him and with Julian and Knox and Lucy, and just, it's like where that like oxytocin comes in, and you're just like on a high. Like my adrenaline was still super high, and just, we did it. That's the best way I could describe it, is like everything that led up to it, the 10 months that it took me to get pregnant, and the miscarriage that I had in January, and just realizing like, oh, this journey is not going to be as easy as you thought it was going to be. And then the whole pregnancy, which was hard, and then really hard at the end. It just, all of that kind of goes away, and you're just like in this like little dream land with your family. And yeah, there's, again, like in a different way than when you're in labor, there's like no time really. You don't really notice who else is around. And it was just super special. And also weird to be like, to look at Knox while I'm holding another baby.
There's 4 of us here now, not 3. And it was really cool, because, you know, throughout all of it, Knox comes in super loud, and he's gotten really attached to him. He just wants to see Banner every morning. Every time he gets to the house, he say, it's okay, Banner, I'm here, and grabs his little hand, you know, says, wake up, Banner, wake up. So just watching that interaction between both of them is really fun and special.
And that's it, realizing this is a completely new person, and we got to get to know him now. It still, right now, both Julian and I have called Banner Knox or Mono at least 2 or 3 times.
What's weird is sometimes I feel like I'm looking at Knox. It's like a redo, but it's not. So like there's random times where I've called him Knox or Little Mono, and I haven't found a nickname that fits him yet. With Knox, it was Mono. But I've said that to Banner, it doesn't feel right quite yet, but something will come.
And they kind of look alike. There's similarities, but they're not like identical or anything, but it's just, we're still getting used to all of it being new and him being new, so it's weird.
Like, you just stare at him and you're just in awe, and you just listen to his every little breath, you just watch his little movements, and it's just a delicate moment where, you know, you're holding him, you feel his breath. It's special, because, you know, Knox is super special, and to realize that there's like another one here now, there's 2 of them. So having a relationship, I'm looking forward to the relationship I'm gonna have with him, and then the relationship I'm gonna have with my boys together. But it was a beautiful thing.
I feel really good, to be honest. Like my recovery compared to what I went through with Knox, and that my recovery with him was not bad. by any stretch of the imagination based on other women's stories that I've heard. But I feel great. Like, I was even just telling Julian last night that I feel physically fine. Like, I would love to go for a 2-mile walk right now, or I would love to go, you know, play with Knox some more, or I don't know that I would love to go work out yet. But I feel great. I'm happy. I'm like Banner is nursing really well. Everything's going awesome. But, so it's been a week now that we're filming. And I'm very committed to bonding with Banner. And I'm very committed to forcing myself, even though I feel good, to take this time, because one advantage of having another baby or having another child is knowing how fast this is gonna go by and never ever being able to get it back. So even though I feel like I could dive back into work, and even yesterday I woke up like thinking about work stuff, I'm fighting it really a lot right now to make sure that I heal this giant wound that's inside of my body that I can't see, that is definitely still there, but also just to cherish these moments with him alone.
I feel pretty good now. I can definitely tell that my body's like getting tired very quickly, just because at nighttime, we've started sleeping in separate rooms. Like, we'll hang out at night, but because right now Miranda needs the lights on to make sure he's nursing properly, and she wakes up every like 90 minutes, 2 hours, and that would wreck me, and I can't sleep with the lights on. And then I'm making sure that like Knox is being taken care of in the morning, because he comes in like a rocket ship. So, you know, luckily he's been doing really good and getting good sleep throughout the night. But I just want to make sure she's getting the good bonding time needed for that development, and that everything's okay. So just keeping course with that, and just, you know, allowing myself to keep moving, staying healthy. It's pushed me to be more on track and organized, and be very selective with what I choose to do throughout my day. Because even now, like I used to have like a routine schedule with like reading and stuff like that, and now I've had to make tweaks and adjustments for that. Because the times where I sit down to slow down and try to read, I get hit with this wave of exhaustion. And I know that it's more beneficial to take a nap than try to ride that out, depending on what time of day it is, of course. But it's more beneficial to just take a nap at that point and get an energy boost, so that way like I can function a little bit more smoothly and not ride it out.
They were in the bed, and this song came on called Follow the Sun. I hadn't never heard it before, and it completely captured this moment that we were in. And I looked at Julian looking at Miranda, and like every woman should like be looked at the way that he looks at her, you know, like he just
adores her.
He completely adores her.
Right, you know, when Banner came out and went up in her chest, and see her looking at Banner, and then looking at Julian, and Julian looking at her, and just see that whole family like connect. That was for sure my favorite part.
The eye contact with me and Julian. We didn't have that as much during my labor with Knox either, because I was holding on to him for most of that, so my head was down and on his shoulders. We didn't use the eye contact as much, and I don't know that our relationship was as strong back then, that it would have been as powerful as it is now. But yeah, you know, it was a super big bummer that Erica had to leave, and it's also a really big, it was really sad that my mom couldn't be here, or that Molly couldn't be here, people like that. But it was just on Julian to support me, and I think it was a really special time for our relationship because of that.
It was such a loving time, and watching the way they worked together, the peaceful atmosphere was really just a blessing for all of us who were there.
I just want to thank you both for including me in this part of your journey. I learned that you'll work out a little harder in Washington. I also learned that you all have such a beautiful connection to one another. And remember back in the seminar when we said, reach out to someone that you see as a queen. You are a queen. And to see you throughout the transition of going from a mother of one boy to a mother of two boys was beautiful. Thank you for including me in that. I'm always here for you. I'm on your side, sending you so much love.
Someday Banner is gonna watch this, so do you have a message for him?
Oh God, Salvi.
You're really lucky, kiddo. And I know that there'll be times when you realize it, and I know that there'll be times when you want to scream running from the room that you hate your parents. They went through a lot, and they did it with intention.
Don't slow down, kid. Don't slow down. I don't think you have a choice. I think it is completely built into you. Inhale the world in ways that fill your soul.
You know, I'm so happy that you're here now. Like, it's been a long journey, and for the longest time, you know, I was a little jealous of your mom getting to finally, you know, move all your kicks and everything. But I was just looking forward to see what you were gonna look like, and just to hold you and to give you your little kisses, to watch you with Knox, and just to be a part of this family now. We're really, like, even now, like, it's been a week since you've been born, since we're shooting this, and you're so relaxed, you're so calm, you're so, like, aware of things, and you're just watching them, and it's great. I love seeing that. So I hope you remain that curious.
Okay, yeah, I guess my message to Banner would be just thank you. I feel like Knox taught me and Julian some lessons that we needed, and he did some things for our relationship that were so important. And Banner, I feel it was more what things that I needed to learn on my own. And I feel that he waited longer because I hadn't learned it all yet. And he knew that I needed to go through something a little bit harder than those first 39 or 40 weeks to learn the lessons that I needed to learn.
I'm just so happy that you're here, and my amazing little boy. So I will always love you. From the moment I got to see you, I immediately fell in love with you, and I'm gonna do the best I can for you.
I think when you go to become a parent, you think of all the things that you're going to teach your kids and what you want to teach them and how you want to help them grow up. And even when you've had one, you think that again about them, but you forget how much they teach you and how they do it in a way that they like know what you need. And so yeah, he just knew what I needed, and we had like such a good communication when he was in my belly. I had a playlist that I would listen to during the insane amount of miles that I was walking every day trying to get him to come out. And it was the same playlist that I listened to during the birth. And I've been listening to it as I've been like breastfeeding him and stuff, and it's just, I still get just flashes of remembering talking to him when I was walking through the neighborhood now when I'm holding him. And yeah, it's just, our bond is different. It's different with each kid. I can see that now. So many parents have told me that, but he was in there to help me, and he waited to help me. And so just thank you, and I love you.
Brand new moon, brand new sun. When you feel life coming down on you like a heavy weight. When you feel this crazy society adding to the strain. Take a stroll to the nearest water's edge. Remember your place. Many moons have risen and fallen long, long before you came. which way is the wind blowing? And what does your heart say?